So, anyway, Chained, the movie Chained. Everybody saw it. Kind of a quick little synopsis on here, real quick, is held captive by a serial killer since the age of 8, a teen, Eamon Farron, who was absolutely phenomenal in my opinion. I really enjoyed him. Must choose between escape or following in his captor's Vincent D'Onofrio's bloody footprints. Anyway, to start it off, I guess since everybody's kind of quiet about this one, this movie I thought was really good. Vincent D'Onofrio never really disappoints as far as I'm concerned. But so if you didn't catch it by that small thing there, to get into a little bit more, Vincent D'Onofrio is a serial killer. He captures this woman and her child, continues to kill the woman and take the child on as like a son, if you will, throughout the movie. Which I thought was really interesting. I would like to start there almost. The dynamic of him and the child as the child is growing up. He starts having those flashbacks of him and himself and his father, and the horrific things his father did. And I just thought it was really interesting that it's almost like he really, I almost felt like he wanted to almost do good by the child, but he didn't know how. I mean, that's almost like just, he was incapable of being a good dad, but I almost feel like he wanted to be. I don't know if anybody else got that impression.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't even know he was an uncle to start with.
Right.
The end kind of threw me all for.
Well, I was going to get to that. Or we
for
were
a loop, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you didn't. I mean, you didn't.
Plot twist. There's nothing else to hear.
That's right. Go to the end and then come back. That's how we do it. So, but in reality, they didn't hint at that really very much at all. At least I didn't notice it. So
one time,
Well,
and maybe they did, but
in the ears and out the
a little,
window.
a little bit.
window.
Yep.
It's
In
like
one
all the
ear and out
hints.
the window. Yep.
You
well,
could
that's
tell there's
yes.
a little-
There is that.
There's a little foreshadowing there because when he said it, you
Well.
saw the boy, or at that point teenager, I guess, kind of stopped and
Hmm.
was like, "Wait a second, I've heard that before."
Yeah.
Which is something his father said right before they were captured, him and his mother. So,
Hmm.
Right.
You know, but yeah, just one of you guys want to continue on here, or do you want me just to ramble on about this movie?
Well, I talk a lot, so anybody else want anything before I go?
Have at it, Steve.
I do want to ask you guys, because I tried to look it up, but I couldn't really find any answers about that in one ear and out the window. I was trying to find out like what exactly does it mean, and if it's like, something that anybody else like ever says, other than the people in this movie, these two people.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really like get any answers.
I felt like
what
it was
is
just a
your
variation of
opinion?
in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
kind
yeah,
of a
of
variation
course.
of that. Yeah.
But-
But I mean, like, I think it was probably written to be unique.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that it's like his father said it and it was kind of weird. Like, it was like, I've never heard that before. But then, it was kind of the foreshadowing moment, I think. Because I've
Yeah.
never heard that anywhere besides this movie as well.
Okay. I didn't
Well,
know if it was like, it reminded me of the time that the little boy like goes out the window when he's trying to escape. And I'm sure it
Good
probably
point.
has nothing to do with that, but it just reminded me of that moment. I didn't know if it had something to do with like escape, like going out the window is escape. I don't know.
I think in this particular situation, I think you might be looking a little too deep.
Yeah.
Right.
Normally,
and then
you're brilliant, and you're usually right, but I think this time, I think you might be.
normally you're brilliant, but right now you're a moron.
Yeah.
That's not what I
No.
said at
Okay.
all. I did not say that.
But Steve
No.
just did.
I did.
Yeah.
No, I think Jake's right with in and out, one ear and out the other. I think that's pretty common knowledge, but the fact that they did make a little tweak on it made it unique. And then I think that by him climbing out the window,
Yeah.
lended an opportunity for not so much humor within it, but a certain
Like a reference.
he gave it a little bit more depth. Yeah, it kind of
Yeah.
came back to that reference, and you could use that and say, oh my God, that's kind of like, although it has no real relevance,
Mhm.
it is kind of one of those funny little Easter egg things that you could maybe state had happened in there that they probably did purposely for that
Yeah.
reason.
So, that kid did get beamed in the side of the head by a rock when he crawled
Oh,
out the
True.
yeah.
window. So maybe
Mhm.
Which I think was another
really
moment of.
Was it in the ear?
something knocked him unconscious.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was another moment too where it kind of brought a little bit of the humanity out of Vincent D'Onofrio's character as well, because I do think that he didn't mean to like actually hurt him, and it seemed
Yeah.
to me like he, wanted to make sure he was okay or that he didn't
Mhm.
hurt him. It seemed like I said, I think it was such a weird dynamic. It's like Vincent D'Onofrio was playing like this father role, but it was just such a strange dynamic. And I
Mhm.
mean, imagine a man trying to raise you, and he doesn't even know how to raise a kid because obviously he had this tormented childhood with the flashbacks. But this guy literally, you may not have understood it at the time that he sexually assaulted your mother, but he definitely killed her. And now you're stuck with this guy. You're 8 years old, and you're basically being raised by this man. I mean, that's a very, very strange dynamic to watch.
He, I mean, the guy lived in the same, at least in the same state, probably not terribly far away, right? I mean, 20 miles maybe at most,
Yeah.
based off of the driving that they did after the movie and everything. And once it did come full circle and you understood the importance of D'Onofrio's character as being quite literally his uncle and the brother to the guy that set all this up, how in the hell would he have never met him, or his wife never have, like, living there? You would have had to have mentioned him, brought him up, seen him somehow, even if the guy was a bit of a lunatic.
Well, I think a lot of families do that, don't they? I mean, I know a lot of people, at least I can think of a handful of people that don't have relationships with their siblings or parents. I know some people, in fact, that I think they would keep their kids away from their siblings or parents, actually. So I
Right.
don't think that's that uncommon. I mean, obviously, the way they grew up and stuff, they probably were
Had
really
never have seen a picture or heard about him or seen him one holiday or something. I don't know. That seemed a little bit of a stretch, but it played well into the overall aspect of the movie, though. So
Yeah.
I mean, I like the fact that he was related. That definitely tied it together and gave you a little bit of something to sink your teeth in at the end. That this guy was actually part of his family.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. Yeah. So did anybody else want to add on to like the psychological part of it, the growing up? Because I mean, I've got a few things to say about the end. I didn't want to jump there and kind of cover the whole thing right now, but if we
Yeah.
had something to build up to that.
I have some stuff to say about the end too, but yeah, we got to wait on that.
Okay. Well, let's start at in essence, the beginning. Nobody really cares about the movie, just what happened afterwards, right? So, the father set them up to be kidnapped right out of the gate, by his estranged brother. And
Which we don't find this out until like the last 10 minutes,
exactly.
5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, the last few minutes, for sure. But it appears as though the guy has lived wherever he's living for quite some time, and he is a loner, of course. So it looked like one of those deals where they build a kind of like a spec home out in the middle of a plot of land where they're getting ready to build a ton of houses, and then they never get started or something, and they just leave the spec house behind to rot. So I think that's more than likely what might have happened there. But even like when the kid escaped through the window and got hit with a rock and everything, it did appear as though all they had was just a long stretch of highway and a bunch of grass. So wasn't a whole lot of place to go out that way. So
Yeah, kind of I mean, you see that sometimes even here in North Carolina with all the fields and everything. Sometimes it'll be just like a random house surrounded by farmland. I couldn't really say where the movie necessarily took place, but I mean, it definitely felt like more of a, kind of country sort of farmland type scenario.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it very well could have been that. For sure, the kid was screaming when he did escape, and nobody heard him. And D'Onofrio even made it a point to be like, nobody can hear you, and was screaming with him. So, that had to be really tough too, thinking you were almost out, and then
Ain't
there's
no
nowhere to
one
go.
around for miles.
Yeah.
Nobody could hear you scream in space.
I don't know. He did have that weird, like, I don't know, stealth-made room on the side of his house, his little kill box room.
Oh yeah, yep.
And
Yeah,
I don't know, like it's just a really weird addition to a house. Like it's really got to be kind of secluded. I don't feel
Mhm.
like because you drive past something and see something like this. That's really weird. It
Well,
stands out.
one thing I thought was interesting though is how big was that space where they buried everybody? Because I feel like throughout the movie
Right?
it kind of explained that there was like a couple of dozen victims, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and they were all buried in that little space. I mean, they showed the mounds at the end, but I was like, that's like 3 or 4 mounds. Like, how big is that room, or were they just literally digging so
Oh,
deep, stacking them
I-
on top of each other?
I think it was the entire crawl space of under the house. So, I
Yeah.
mean, with a
Yeah.
house like
Huh.
that's dozens of people. Which, when they were playing the Guess Who game with the driver's license,
Yeah.
you saw how many, or could
Yeah.
imagine how many in
Mhm.
total. I mean, that's the only explanation I can think of is they used the entire crawl space under the house.
Well, hopefully they went deep enough so they didn't pull a Gacy and, it just stank.
Thinking of
And
that.
again,
Yeah.
probably get used to that smell anyway. But yeah, so it was definitely interesting that he trained the boy to open the door and kind of be almost of assistance when he brought the women home. And we didn't even mention this, but Vincent D'Onofrio's character in the movie actually was a taxi cab driver, which made it more convenient to pick people up,
Mhm.
kind of more unsuspecting. There was a scene where he picked up a really intoxicated woman, which I could see that not being very difficult in certain cities and stuff. Somebody's very drunk and you have a taxi cab, and it didn't really specify that she was a hooker or anything, but I almost kind of got that vibe as well.
Oh, when he took rabbit hunting, he was implying that you need to start with hookers,
Yeah.
the prostitutes, whatnot.
Mhm.
So,
Well, they're the easiest targets. I mean, serial killers have been killing hookers for since probably there have been hookers.
the dawn of
Um,
mankind. Yeah.
First serial killer and the first hooker, serial killer probably killed the hooker. I mean, seems like that might have been the origin. Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting. And then, of course, it kind of came down to it was the boy's turn. So Bob, I'll start calling him Vincent D'Onofrio's character, Bob, made him pick a girl out of the yearbook.
Quick segue. Wasn't his character from Men in Black also Bob?
Was it?
Vincent
I don't
D'Onofrio?
remember.
Vincent D'Onofrio
I
makes
would-
a very,
Believe you if you said yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he makes a very
I'll look it
convincing
up real
Bob.
quick.
Look it up.
I'm very interested. Yeah,
I mean,
I'll look this up.
I see.
We can continue.
So, so
That was
Rabbit,
Edgar. My bad.
Ed and
Oh.
Bob. Bob and Ed.
Uh-huh.
Sounds like a morning talk show. Today on
Mhm.
Bob and Ed and Bob. So the boy, he called him Rabbit, which I can't help but think of 8 Mile whenever I think of him being named Rabbit. But anyway, it's a whole other thing. So Rabbit picked out a girl from a yearbook, and Bob went and found her, and that was, Bob trying to get Rabbit to actually take on the role of co-serial killer, if you will. And Rabbit made it a point of, God, there's so many details. It's like I keep forgetting. So of course,
There's a
like
lot of
he was educating the boy. So the boy learned anatomy. There's actually this kind of almost funny thing where the girl's like, I'll show you how my body works. And he's like, I know how your body works because he's been studying anatomy. So Rabbit purposefully stabs her in a place where she'll survive for a couple of days, which inevitably leads to the falling of Bob. So,
Yeah, I do think it's really cool that he allowed him to read these anatomy books, and then it actually like became his downfall.
yeah,
hmm
it was like that old saying that they don't teach you how to overthrow them or whatever. But in this case, he did, ironically enough.
Well, you got to figure at some point in time the young boy is going to become an adult man. You know, whether it happened then or a few years down the road. And although it appeared as though he was relatively malnourished from the sake of having to eat Bob's leftovers and everything, and the fact that he was just skinny as heck, he probably wouldn't have had the strength to overtake him. But it definitely alluded to opportunities as he allowed him to come sit with him over, got him a chair for himself, took his shackles off and let him sit on the bed on his own. You kind of knew that the opportunity for him to fight back was coming. You just didn't know exactly the means that he was going to select in order to do so. I'd never pictured him taking him out in a vehicle, out kind of as a scouting opportunity. So obviously he got more and more comfortable with him, and I can imagine the acting that it would take for somebody like that, who's been captive for the better part of their life. I mean, what did he take when he was he 8 or 10? I forget what he said.
Said in the
10?
description that
He
he
was
was 8.
9.
Yeah,
8,
8 or 9.
8 or 9.
9.
Okay, yeah. And what was he was 17 or 18 towards the end there? So
I don't know if they said it.
Yeah, I don't remember
it
them
appeared to me
saying
like he was
exactly.
around senior and high school age ish.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I was assuming because he was kind of, I don't know. I mean, he said to graduation and he had him pick a girl out of the
Yeah.
yearbook, so I just kind of assumed he was around that
Right.
age.
right.
I assumed the
So
same.
this, in order to keep, I mean, he can't be kidnapping people every weekend, or I mean, I'm sure that he would have been found out or caught by then. More than likely, what would you say? Maybe 20 licenses they had over that period of time. They were probably doing it every other month or something, or maybe once a month, and then skipping, depending on how the hunting was, I guess. But yeah, like back to Jake's point of the basement and everything, the crawl space underneath. Definitely, I mean, you would have needed a shitload of space to be able to put all those people. But I think that they figured that was kind of irrelevant in the whole scheme of things to have to
Yeah.
really hit on that. But
Yeah, I mean, there's not going to be too many people around that are just like, I hate this movie because it didn't give you enough space to bury that many bodies. I mean, maybe there's somebody out there for everything. So there probably is somebody that's their gripe and they don't like the movie because of it. But I mean, just I found it to be really interesting, the psychological parts of the movie. I mean, even when he was like the rabbit was a young boy and he like gave him the chocolate. It just like it was such a weird to me. It was so weird because I did see some tender moments ish there, you know, and it did feel to me
Yeah.
like I feel like Bob was a victim of his circumstances. There is a flashback that's very graphic where his father forced him to have relations with his mother, actually. And his father was just this terribly, terribly abusive person. And I can't imagine the psychological trauma that Bob's character went through. And I know that this may sound crazy, but I mean, in some ways, I almost felt bad for Bob, being that he went through everything that he went through and trying to see him have these kind of, like I said, almost tender moments with the boy. It's like, I don't feel like the guy was all bad, even though he was made out to be a monster in the movie. I really do feel like a lot of what he did and what he was going through was because of the trauma that he faced and by no means am I excusing his behavior, but I'm just saying, talking about the character and kind of seeing how he related to everything. Because, I know you guys are chomping at the bit here to talk about the end of the movie. And I'll touch on one thing that I was wondering is I think it was Bob's decision to keep the kid alive. I mean, if I had to guess, I think the father probably wanted both of them killed, right? I mean,
probably.
That's the thing.
I mean,
Mhm.
it would be, I don't know, knowing, he's the uncle. He's like, women are kind of his deal. For what he does, it's kind of and the whole murder thing, and he doesn't know what to do with the kid. It just feels different. It feels wrong for him, possibly. So yeah, no, he doesn't know what to do. He wasn't really prepared for it. I feel so. He just kind of winged it. He didn't know what he was doing, and they kind of made it work.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is I do feel like I do feel like, I don't know, I do feel like maybe a part of him did relate to the child and wanted to not, I think even though he was grooming the child to be a serial killer as well, I think he still wanted to have a good relationship with the child in a way. I think he still wanted.
Well, that was his means
Correct.
for a relationship, was to keep him as a tool, to utilize him as a helper, and in doing so, be forced to kind of keep him along. And as time went on, he more than likely became more attached to him. I don't recall the exact dialogue towards the end with his father, although his dad played it off pretty good in the way of being shocked in the beginning, at least, until he showed his true colors and everything. But I don't remember if he said anything that alluded to the fact that he was shocked that he was still alive, or that he was supposed to, his brother was supposed to kill them both at the same time or whatever.
Yeah, that's why I think it was kind of more implied.
Yeah, I kind of want to say that he said something that kind of alluded to that, but I don't recall right offhand.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
there was
he was-
like that one moment where Bob had the note or clipping of newspaper or something about his dad remarrying. Does this look like someone that misses you?
Mhm.
So like that was like, how did he find that? That just seemed kind of weird that he would have that information. But you watch till the end of the movie, it kind of makes sense that he did.
Yeah.
Once you figure
Of
out
course.
who he actually was to Rabbit.
Yeah. And in the flashback where he was forced to sleep with his mother, there was another boy there. So they also did imply that he had a brother as well.
Yeah.
During the abuse scene, the father said something about, never wanting to see the two of you again, or the two of you are worthless, or something to that effect. Yeah, I mean, it was very, I thought that was very interesting.
They really did do a good job of showing how tortured Bob was. Like with flashbacks and him writhing in his bed through nightmares and things like that.
And there was,
as you said, Jake, it does bring out the humanity in him for being such a inhuman character. You can see how he made it to where he was.
And I was going to add that because there's a scene where Rabbit is actually like rolling around in bed and screaming and having a nightmare.
It's like after with Bob,
Right.
And Bob comes out and is watching him, Sorry.
Because Rabbit has his own trauma as well, which I'll get to.
Which I feel like at that point, Bob comes out and sees him rolling around in the bed screaming. And I feel like that was also a connector between the two in some weird way, that Bob could relate to what was going on. And that's all Bob really knows, So I don't know. Like I said, I think there's all these slight hints to me that really did show, that softer side of Bob, if you will. I mean, I think you had to look for it, but it was there, I think. But yeah, so when he goes to his father's house, I was also really shocked at how fast the wife kind of turned on him. It's like she put the whole thing together in 20 seconds and was right on board with the son that she never even knew the guy had. I mean, she did read the letter on the stairs or looked at it, but it was like I don't know. That's kind of, and I'm assuming maybe the father, Brad, was Rabbit's father, biological father, and Bob's brother. I'm assuming that Brad probably was abusive. Maybe that's also another reason.
Absolutely.
Oh,
You could tell
for
she
sure.
was abused for sure. So she was almost waiting, sadly, in that relationship for the other shoe to drop. Like she had been abused in that relationship. That guy was a bit of a megalomaniac, and for that was just that little bit of information with him coming in and her overhearing what he said over the stairs, was enough for her to know instantly that was truth.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, just overall, I mean, just such a sad movie, but it's very well done. And the young man that played that role did a fantastic job too. I don't remember seeing him in much, but he really did do a very good job.
Right. Older
Yep.
older rabbit.
Older Rabbit. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the other part. Sorry, Jen.
Oh, I was just gonna say I don't think I recognize him from anything else.
I was about to click on him right here real quick and see if I could came up as any.
Yeah, do that. I'm curious.
thing.
Winchester,
But
The Dig, Red Dog, Big Mood. Nothing I've heard of.
Okay, Rob's on top of it because I
Yeah.
froze up for a second.
What's
Oh.
I can't remember if he was Russian or something.
I mean, he looks of that persuasion. So he's in
Everyone's
the
looking it up.
Twin Peaks.
Man,
Yeah.
He's in
Say
The
Twin
Witcher,
Peaks?
but yeah,
The movie or the show?
the show, the remake of the show in 2017.
Oh, the remake. Okay, that would make more sense because I was like,
what
dang.
show?
Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, no, there's no way he'd be in the original. He would have been like Spurn,
Yeah.
if that.
That's why I was
Australian.
like,
Um,
oh, he's Australian.
He's an Australian actor. Yep.
Oh,
Wow.
It was also crazy because I guess that was just
Hold on.
character, but the mother also just let him go. She told him to get out of there so that she could say that somebody else came in and assaulted her husband, which I thought was interesting because I mean she doesn't know that guy from anything, so I thought that was.
Yep.
yeah.
I
That's
think I
interesting.
recognize where I've seen him before. Now I'm
Oh.
looking through his IMDb filmography. It says he's in The Witcher as Cahir, but I don't recognize the name or the character. It's been a long time since I've seen that show. But I think he is the general of the invading army.
Mm.
And if anyone's seen The Witcher,
I've seen a little,
like
but not very much.
Nibelheim or whatever, like the bad guys.
Nope.
But yeah,
It's,
no, I'm pretty sure that's his character.
says he is Cahir in The Witcher season 3.
So
I don't know who that is, but he's in The Witcher.
I'm
Yeah.
almost positive it's irrelevant. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't even know if I've
Well,
heard
while we're
3
talking
people ever
about
talk
Oh, we're talking about irrelevant things. I've got to be honest, guys. When I was watching this movie, and I'm a homer, all things D'Onofrio, I couldn't help but wonder what it would have been like for him to have played Longlegs. That
Oh,
would be
yeah.
pretty cool.
probably a lot better.
I'm thinking
Oh.
Jake might have liked it better.
I mean, it would have kind of just been like watching The Cell almost.
Yeah, I guess there you go. Which is
Oh.
another fantastic movie. So
Well, that's all good and all, but I mean, I'm still not done here with you guys are getting ahead of me here. I'm still unchained, so go ahead and chill out for a second, and then we can go into all your wildest D'Onofrio dreams. The last
I have
thing.
okay.
Oh no, I was just gonna say since we're at the end of the movie, even though Steve promised us he was so long-winded and doesn't seem to have very much of an opinion on the end. We're at the end here, and I think. I mean, I guess he wouldn't have anywhere else to go, but he went back to the house. I thought that was interesting because that's where all the trauma happened. So I'm really kind of wondering, like, what happened. I'm kind of curious as to what would have happened after the movie. He did bring the girl where the
I have
girl
a
got
theory.
away. The Angie, I think her name was, the girl that he was supposed to abuse, that Bob brought home for him. She obviously got to safety or got helped or whatever, probably around the time he went to his father's house. And then after he kills his father, he returns back.
Well,
And I'm just
actually,
like,
let's talk about her real quick because I don't know if she actually survived or not.
I thought she died.
Did. I think she survives.
I think she
Well,
survived.
It leaves it open because you see her lying there. It looks like she's dead, and then when Rabbit's killing Bob, in the crawl space,
He's like, "What did you
see
do to
like,
her?"
You see her blink and start breathing again. So like it implies it could have gone either way because it showed her looking like she was dead, and then it showed her, at least see that the reason everything got so fucked up, which is Bob, she got to see him die. So if she lived or not, she still got some type of I don't know, solidarity from it.
I mean, I know assuming is not a good thing necessarily, but everything I've ever known about movies, everything I've ever seen in movies, tells me that when she started breathing again, she lived. I feel like if she didn't live, what would have been the point? I mean, I don't know. That seems to me like, if you take the cues from movies and kind of directing and what people do in movies, it just seems to me like why even include that if she died?
Well, it's left open and unexplained. Just like, why did he go back to the house? Is he gonna be a serial killer? Is he gonna change his ways? Is he?
Well, I'd like to hear what Jen's theory is on that because she said she had one. So, if you don't mind,
I do
Jen,
have a
what's your-
theory. um, so I did write it down so I wouldn't screw it up. Okay. But anyway, as you know,
You're
the
so cute, Jen.
psychology, yeah, the psychology of this movie is like super interesting to me. So
That's
Vincent's
what I'm
abuse,
saying.
yep. Vincent's abuse and trauma from a young age has made him hate women so much he wants to kill them. But Rabbit's trauma is from watching his mother get attacked and hearing her die, then reliving that same trauma every time Vincent kills another woman. So this makes him want to kill men who hurt women, because the two people that he does kill in the movie are men hurting women. And then I
Damn, Jen,
also
that's
found
good.
it. I'm not done.
I know, but I like
no,
that, and
that's
I
good
wanted to
stuff.
say it.
So I also found it interesting that at the very end, when he goes to see his father, he meets his half brother, and then his half brother overhears his half brother's mother on the phone, talking about like, my husband is dead, somebody killed him. So that's going to make that little boy have trauma about his father dying. And then it's possible that that little boy is going to grow up to try and find his half brother Rabbit and possibly kill him. So it's like the cycle continues.
Boom.
Yeah.
Damn,
seriously.
Jen. Damn, Jen. I didn't even think about the brother. That was so good.
Was that worth the
Wow.
wait? Because I feel like I didn't
That
talk
was
very much
really
today.
damn good.
That was really good. I didn't even think about that. So that's awesome. You're kind of putting out this whole, it's like the cycle of trauma, and
Yes.
it's
Exactly.
just it's continuing. It's
Yeah.
Mhm.
that's so interesting. I didn't even think about that when I watched the movie,
Because-
the effect on the younger
And-
brother. And the
and
younger
I
brother
do-
was about his age when he got kidnapped, it looked
Yes.
like.
Close
Right.
to it.
Yes.
And you got
So
to
I
believe too that young kid has some sort of crappy relationship with Rabbit's father too. Like if he was probably abusive to him in some way as well. So I'm sure that he's probably already damaged goods to start with.
Oh, and I just thought of something. So he might see, where the dad beat up that other lady, I don't remember her name. But that other lady that's like his new wife.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He might see like those bruises where his dad beat her up, but he might think that his half brother did it. It's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So no
Yeah.
matter what, there's going to be some kind of conflict there.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's too damaged to come out of this thing normal. I don't think there's a happy ending, no matter how you slice it.
Mm.
I mean, the happiest ending is that he killed Bob and kind of saved that girl, because I believe she's alive, regardless of what Rob wants me to
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that she is too. I don't think that Rabbit is into killing women. I think he's like actually the opposite of that.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. So I
Yeah,
think there's a small possibility in my mind that he might possibly keep her captive. I mean, and then I say that's a very small possibility. I don't think that Rabbit is like that, but then again, he's been through some crazy trauma, with being with Bob and everything. Like, it's a possibility that it could go in that direction. But I'd like to think that it goes in the direction where he is more like his victims are going to be men that hurt women.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was interesting because when he went back to the house at first, I thought it was. I mean, we all watch movies and we kind of try to make little predictions in our heads when we see things of what's going to happen next. And I really thought it was going to end the movie with him setting the house on fire or something like that, and then him like sitting in the field or something, like he had nowhere to go. I thought it was really interesting that he went back into the house it almost looked to me like his attitude was like, okay, now what am I going to do? Like,
Yeah.
what next?
Well, that's all he's ever known, since he was like 9. So
I thought it was going to end with him sitting in Bob's chair on it. I thought that's how it was going to end. Like him going sitting back down, maybe pouring himself a glass of milk and just like kind of staring at the wall, thinking, where do I go next? But if I'd like to think that he went back there and unearthed all of the women in the basement, probably drug them out, and then somehow got in contact with somebody. But I mean, I guess we're forgetting too that he was 8 years old when he was taken. Somehow he knows how to drive a vehicle. And maybe even more importantly, knows where the hell that house was after being taken there once against his will, and then finding his father's house and then going back. So those are little things that are really kind of inconsequential. But
one thing about where the house was, D'Onofrio's character, when he took him out hunting, made him kneel, like get down low until they hit the city, and then coming back, he had his head up against the window because they had their little spat, whatnot. But he didn't say anything. He wasn't talking, and even Bob, was just like, "Don't you do that shit? I know you can hear me." So he was just watching where they were going at that moment. So he kind of knew where to go, at least on the roads.
Well, finding the house doesn't. I think Steve made a good point of finding his father. That part was interesting, like how he'd even know to do that. But I mean, I guess he was educated while he was in by Bob.
And then
there was some time where he wasn't, though.
Yeah. Well, in his Bob might have had something about his brother hidden somewhere, because he did find the note requesting Bob to take care of his family.
Yeah. I was watching for him to actually be driving. I don't think it actually showed him driving, because I was actually looking for that. Like, I was like, how's he going to know how to drive?
Maybe he called a cab.
I mean, I don't know how we got back and forth. I mean, probably a hell of a walk, but I mean, I don't think it actually did show him driving, because when the girl...
Maybe there was GPS. I don't know.
Well, when the girl was, after she started breathing again, I was like, well, how is he going to get her? I was thinking to myself, how is he going to get her to the hospital? And I was like, she probably knows how to drive, but that's going to suck to drive yourself to the hospital with a friggin' huge gut wound that's been just open for 2+ days, but it didn't actually show any of that. So, I mean, realistically, we don't know if the girl lived, to Rob's point. We don't know if she made it anywhere, because we didn't see her go anywhere. And he didn't drive. So, I don't know. I mean, to Steve's point, I would probably assume, I guess he drove, but I don't know.
I swore that she died too. And you guys are probably right. I'm sure she lived. But when I was watching it, and I might have had my dog jumping all over my face while I was watching it, and missed this. But I thought that he realized that she was dead, or as you guys are stating, that she ended up taking a breath or open her eyes or something. And I don't think I caught that during the moment, but I thought he saw her and what Bob had done to her, and that gave him the over the top courage to go after him and try to kill him himself.
Well, and that did happen,
Right.
but
And she
it
took a
did
breath.
show her breathe and whatnot. I think
Yeah, definitely
even
showed
after
that.
that,
No,
it showed
yeah.
her sleeping on the cot, didn't it?
Yeah,
She
yeah, I'm
wasn't,
pretty
she
sure.
wasn't moving. Like
I
Yeah,
don't
it
recall.
was unsure.
yeah.
Yeah, she was on the cot. I don't know. Maybe they fell in love. Maybe he was going back to her. Maybe they were going to have a normal life, and she was going to show him how her body worked.
Oh,
Yeah.
a match made in Stockholm syndrome.
So
Yeah, I
romantic.
mean, I don't know. I mean, it did seem. I don't know. It did seem like they had a little bit of a moment before he stabbed her. I know she was like trying to probably play the game to keep him from killing her. You
Do
know,
anything to not be killed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she did offer to have sex with him, and she was, but I mean, at the same time, I don't know, maybe I was thinking way too much in this movie, but I almost feel like she understood him a little bit and kind of felt for him as well. I feel like there was a lot of,
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of emotion in this movie that I'm not sure that maybe I was
Well,
putting there.
I mean, it did show, like I guess on the taxi cab ride back, from the hunting session, it flashbacked to him, and she's like, "Oh, you stabbed me." He's like, "Nah, I did, but I didn't hit anything vital. I told you I know your body."
Mhm.
So I don't know. Maybe there was a little bit of something.
I think there was like, I'm not gonna say chemistry, but I do feel like they had a moment,
Right.
even if it was a weird moment.
She
Yeah.
sensed that he was as much a victim as she was.
Yes.
Yeah.
In
Thank you,
the house.
Very well put.
And yeah, I mean, and they very well may have put something together afterwards. It's really strange to think about how this moves forward with that kid. I mean, he's got virtually no life skills at all. I mean, I don't know.
He's a hell of a
It's funny-
scrapbooker. He's a hell of a
it's-
scrapbooker.
He is. He's
It's
a
funny you say
scrapbooker.
no
There's no
life
doubt about it.
skills, because that's what D'Onofrio was trying to teach him. Is
Right.
Uh,
Well, yeah. I mean, he could probably make a julienne salad, no problem. All he needs is julienne. But
I mean, if I mean, he has no formal training, but realistically, reading that book as long as he did, he's probably closer to a doctor than any of us are. I mean,
Wow.
mhm.
By leaps and
you look at
strides.
an anatomy book for you look at
He
an
goes
anatomy
to
book
book
for
school.
years.
Well, that was wild too, because D'Onofrio seemed like kind of a slow-witted person. Probably been hit in the head a time or 20 by his father, and so the fact that he had a little bit of that kind of hidden skill set as well from just doing what he'd done for so long, getting into the anatomical side of the female body. I'm assuming just female body, but maybe both, and having a great understanding of it and how it worked and everything led to believe that there was more to his life than just kind of a live, die, repeat moment where he just goes, drives cab, goes, picks up a woman, has to kill her, goes and does it again. Like there was some sort of in his mind normalcy to his life, and had a little bit of something else that he was interested in and involved in, other than the task at hand, which seemed to be almost something that he had no control over, something that he just had to do, like a inert type of beast inside of him that he couldn't control. That he had something a little bit more dynamicism to his life, but which seemed pretty sucky based off of a house out in the yard with nothing else going on for the most part. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
What a sad way to live.
uh,
The way he was living.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah. Overall, though, I'm going to give this movie a higher rating than Long Legs. Because Long Legs sucked.
Big surprise for you.
It wasn't that bad. I can't wait to see Long Legs again so I can see, was it that bad? And was I would I have beer goggle eyes while I was watching the thing or something? I mean, I don't get
I've
it.
been talking with other people that have seen Long Legs, and a lot of people are saying that they want to see it again
Yeah.
to watch it, with different eyes once they understand what's going on.
I thought I liked it, Jake, and now you're trying to tell me that I didn't like it, and I'm starting to believe you.
I'm going to tell you this right now.
We started calling you Rabbit, Steve.
They are the best. They did the best marketing ever. Not marketing. No. They beat Blair Witch. Okay, because Blair Witch had this marketing technique that made everybody go see it because everybody thought it was real. Longlegs, however, did something even more phenomenal than that in the fact that it was so bad with good parts that it's going to make everybody watch it twice. So they are going to make a fortune on this movie because everybody's going to see it twice to know that it really wasn't as good as they thought it was. I mean,
maybe that they'll enjoy it even more the next time.
And even though there is kind of a moment at the end that gives you the answers that you're looking for, it still isn't like a M. Night Shyamalan movie where once you've seen it, you're like, oh crap, now I can't watch it again because the whole thing is spoiled.
I mean, it's a testament to how good Shyamalan
type of thing.
is. Shyamalan good,
I suppose.
Longlegs bad.
Shyamalan, read the prophecy on the back of a cereal box. Shyamalan.
Hey, that guy has done some
Shyamalan.
really amazing. That guy has done some really amazing stuff. I'm gonna tell you right now.
I enjoy most of his movies, the vast majority of his movies.
Mm-hmm.
Better than Longlegs. So Longlegs, I think I ended up at a 5.2, right? Was it a 5.2 because of Perkins? So I'm gonna give Chained a 6.3.
What's the overall 10? Is this because that seems low for? I thought that movie was better than. If we're going to 10,
if we're going to 10, well, yeah, I guess you're right because I've just got this huge standard because when I think about like the greatest of the greatest movies and those being like the 10 standard, it's like Chained is really good, but it is a couple of steps back from what I would consider to be like the best horror movies. But yeah, you're probably right. I'm probably being a little too conservative there. I probably should give it a more, you're right, maybe like a 7.2. You talked me into a 7.2. That's where I'm standing. Longlegs is staying at fucking 5.2, and that 0.2 is only because of the director.
Interesting.
What's that called? Like nepotism or something? Because he's the son of Anthony Perkins, so you're up at some points.
100%. It got a 0.2 purely because of that. 100%. Yeah. Okay. That's where I'm at. So,
I would have also put Chained in the 7 range. I'd give it a good 7.5, kind of a 3/4 of a whole type of thing. And I think that's just because although you can still do a great movie with very little to work with, i.e. like a Castaway or something like that, one guy out on a beach the entire movie for the most part, like how can you make something iconic that way? But they did.
One man and one volleyball.
One man in a phone booth for 2 hours. I
love that movie.
Like, it was
dope as hell,
dude. I'm telling you what. Like I've talked to Kristen about that too. Like, how did we just watch 2 hours of a dude in a phone booth and not go insane? I mean, it's a testament to the story and everything. And same thing with this movie too. Mainly in that dump of the house, and a little bit of road time. That's it. So
hour and 40
not
minutes. One house.
Not a whole lot of extra characters or people that can really. It was a tag team performance by D'Onofrio and that other guy there. So because of that, I got to give him.
In all fairness, though, you're like they're stuck in a house. There's these two great actors. Like Rob's favorite movie is a guy walking through the desert for over an hour. Like, I mean,
But he walks
put it
the
in
desert with a
perspective.
bunch of people.
but it's not. But there's no tag team
And they
of other.
blow up
It's
a
like
train.
him. That's yeah. Okay. The point is though, is that I
Are you
mean,
talking
that
about
movie-
Dune?
Yeah. No, I'm talking about Lawrence of Arabia.
mean,
But everybody
I
says
do
that.
love Dune. It's
Um,
way up there. It's Dune is definitely
Dude,
But I mean,
limboed under
realistically,
my expectations. But go ahead.
It's all about how you do it though, because Rob and I watched that movie Fall, which was the two girls. They climbed. They were like extreme
Oh,
climbers or
base
whatever,
jumpers.
and they
Yeah.
they climbed up to the tallest
Oh,
tower.
Cell tower.
sorry, they weren't
Yeah.
base jumpers, but they were climbers.
But they and we watched that, and I actually really enjoyed that movie, and that was
Same.
an hour plus of two girls on top of a tower. I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, if you do it right,
Mm.
and those girls, if I remember correctly, were like nobodies. Not that they're nobodies, but I mean, I didn't recognize. I don't think they were big names by any means. I mean, we
Right.
got D'Onofrio in the house, baby. D'Onofrio.
Yeah.
Well, I think I give it an 8.
8. Ooh, coming out
Yep.
strong.
Yeah.
What you got, Rob?
I didn't have the same pull of trauma leading into other people's trauma, leading into other people's trauma. I do kind of want to give it a 5.1 just to mess
Whoa.
around with Jake's
So
love of
low.
his hatred for long legs. But I do I didn't it didn't hit me as something that I loved or I'll probably ever watch again. But it was better than average. I'll give it a 6. I'll give it a 6. It was,
I wanna point-
it was
I
pretty
wanna-
decent.
I want to point something out really quick here, Rob. We discussed long legs, and you got very upset with me when we discussed that. And it was because you literally felt like I didn't understand the depth of the movie. But now you're sitting here telling me that when you watched Change, you didn't understand the depth of the movie. And it was a lot more obvious. So now I'm kind of wondering
didn't
what's
say
going
Kick his
on.
ass, Seabass.
It's not that I don't understand it. It just doesn't entice me.
Yeah.
Movies like this just don't do it for me.
Because Nicolas Cage wasn't.
Truth. But I do love D'Onofrio.
I mean, fair enough. Fair enough.
Just nowhere near what I love
Um,
from Nick Cage.
Well, I think after we rate this movie, which we've done, I think Steve wanted to discuss Vincent D'Onofrio and how much he loves him for a minute.
I do. He's up there with like Mads Mikkelsen is kind of my dudes in the cinema that I just can't get enough of. I don't think I've ever seen anything that D'Onofrio's been in that I wasn't a huge fan. Obviously, the iconic Full Metal Jacket opening scene is got to be most people's number one go-to with him. But he's been in so much. The Law and Order years. I remember watching, and during that time, wasn't there like 4 or 5 different Law and Order options? You had like SVU, Criminal Intent,
Yeah, there's
freaking Cotton Candy
DOJ.
Avenue. I mean, yeah, I mean there was 101 different options. It felt like, and then not only did you have that, but you had like what was it, CSI, and that
Which
like there
also
was a
had, like,
bunch of
8
Las
different
Vegas.
shows.
yeah, 8 different options. And for whatever reason, every time that one came on with him, I was like, yes, like this is and even after the fact, it's the one I've searched. I know it's the one I've searched out to watch again because he immerses himself so much into the role that he's playing. And I know every actor, the idea is to do that, but he really does a fantastic job. He doesn't have like that go-to thing. He's not like Hemsworth and good looks and muscles or, Sean Connery and the accent and kind of debonair, suave type of,
Yeah.
personality. Like he's just a dude. He's just like your average dude that doesn't really have a whole lot of qualities outside of just a hell of an actor. And,
But endless depth. Yeah.
I agree
Yeah.
with that.
He puts
And
the
I
work
also,
in.
sorry, Jen.
Oh, I was just saying he puts the work in. He puts in the effort. You can tell.
Yeah, I was going to say also with D'Onofrio, one thing that I feel about him is that I don't know why. It's probably great acting ability, but it's like I always feel like I understand what he's thinking or what's going on in his head. I don't know if anybody else kind of knows what I'm saying, but like those times where he's like going a little crazy, or he's like, like it's like I don't know, it's like I can kind of really empathize, sympathize even like with kind of what's going on with him at that moment, and I think that that's probably just qualities of a great actor.
And he plays a lot of crazy roles, like what was it, Gomer Pyle or whatever from Full Metal Jacket. Like, I mean that he plays serial killers in multiple things. Like he does do something beyond the standard of a regular character on a normal basis.
Mm.
Like even with playing the main terrible alien Edgar in Men in Black, like.
Yeah.
It's always something a little bit extra, and it's always done so well.
Yeah, he doesn't have any ho-hum roles in anything. Everything that he does, it's like, okay, he's up. Okay, what is he going to do? What's his character? Even if it's a cameo or a small role within the movie, and he's not the lead actor or one of the leads, just to have him and his presence on a film has got to be uplifting to a lot of these writers and different people that put these movies together. Like who can I get to play this role? He's got to be one of those names that people toss around quite often to hit the mark with certain things. I forgot that he was in some of the latter Jurassic Park movies.
Was he?
And yeah, he was trying to get, he was like kind of head of the group to get that Velociraptor, like one of the antagonists in the movie.
Oh.
And yeah, if I remember correctly, and even in that role, he does a great job, and it's just a few moments. So,
Well, I think the first time I saw him was Adventures in Babysitting, which I think he just shows up extremely briefly as Thor the Mechanic.
Thor the Mechanic.
Yeah.
And like he shows up and everyone's just like, oh, and like I don't even know if he saves the day, but because it's been so long since I've seen that, but I'm never gonna forget seeing him and everyone just like, oh my god, you're here.
That was definitely one of
the characters' reactions in the movie.
It's one of those roles where when you go back, it's like you don't believe it's him until you see it. Like you have to like see the picture of him as Thor.
It's also like really extremely brief. I don't think he's there for much of the movie. I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to rewatch Adventures in Babysitting.
Yeah, he doesn't have a big role, but it's a very memorable role.
Yeah, and this is what Vincent D'Onofrio does: is he does make the memorable roles like better than anyone. I feel.
Yeah,
he has a commanding presence, I think, is what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
Like larger than life, one of those kind of guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going through all his films too, and boy, he's been in a ton of stuff. And you know what I forgot about, and which is blasphemous for the sake of how recent it's been, is Daredevil, with him doing Kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal job as Kingpin. Loved him as that. Absolutely loved him. Like, I couldn't think of a better person for the role. So
he's always going to be Kingpin in my brain.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
As a huge comic fan, watched everything, movies, shows, Marvel, DC. I've watched everything. I read comic books all the time. And now that when I see,
he is reading a book. He told me.
I said we should read a book.
Really good book.
Oh, we should.
Whenever I see,
he reads books.
Not his books.
Kingpin, I'm going to be thinking of D'Onofrio forever now. He can't be touched. It's amazing what he does.
Yeah, he definitely does his thing for sure.
I didn't know he was half of these movies I'm reading. I had no clue that he was in. I completely forgot.
You want to share? Would you like us to?
Share one or two little gems in that list.
Yeah.
All right, I'll read some movies and you tell me if you remember them or not. Stealing Minnesota.
I don't even remember the movie.
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
What did you just say? Stealing Minnesota?
Feeling Minnesota. That was
Feeling
Cameron
Minnesota?
Diaz and Keanu Reeves. Yep, mid '90s.
That's a lot of names
Oh.
to
Barely
not
remember that
remember.
movie at all.
I can remember
All
the
right.
movie poster.
Yeah, I remember seeing the movie. How about Rings, the second one?
I don't
Yes,
ever
I
saw
do
that.
remember him in Rings.
Okay,
No,
so he
I
was
mean-
in Rings.
He played
let's
like
see.
a doctor type character. He actually wasn't he a similar character in the movie Sinister? Actually, I believe so. Ethan Hawke was trying to get in touch with some kind of demonologist or something like that. Wasn't he also in that movie?
I don't see it here, but it doesn't mean that he wasn't in it.
Or am
Yeah,
I
and
actually
then-
confusing his role with? I think I might be confusing his role with the role that he played in Rings because it was a very similar character.
Gotcha. You're probably right there.
It's like a dude on the on one of these, like on a video chat, and he was like explaining, like, "Oh, don't do the thing and stuff, and then all that stuff and things." Pretty much what he said.
Yeah, I'm just looking at a bunch of movies here going, I don't remember him being in it, but
Well, give us one or two more.
Yeah.
all right. Well, I'm trying to come up with one or state one that you were like, okay, well, I've seen that since you guys haven't seen Feeling Minnesota, and I swear to God.
I've seen Rings too.
Well, okay, so Jake's on board there. Well,
I
they did a
also thought he was in
remake of
Sinister.
they did a remake of Death Wish, with
That Charles
Bruce
Bronson?
Willis.
Was that
The original was
Bronson?
Charles Bronson. Yeah, that's the original Bronson stuff, but
Bronson.
yeah, Bruce Willis was in this one. He was in it. Let's see, Kill the Irishman, Godfather of Harlem, Jurassic World we know about,
He wasn't
Adventures in
Godfather of
Babysitting.
Harlem.
Yep. The Magnificent.
He said it's got to be true.
Yep.
I haven't seen that movie forever. I forgot that movie existed.
Kill the Irishman, The Judge, Lift, The Breakup. I remember The Breakup. I've had to watch a few of those chick flicks before.
That was like a romantic comedy, really. Vince Vaughn. That was a pretty good one.
Mhm. Yep.
Oh, I think I vaguely remember that.
Jennifer Aniston. I'm pretty sure it probably
Yeah.
wasn't
Oh,
pronounced.
yeah.
She walks through the house like
Oh,
naked.
she walks around naked.
But
I remember that
I almost
part.
feel like she probably
Yeah.
used an ass double for that. If I had to guess,
Mhm.
feels like she would have.
So Vincent D'Onofrio was
Yeah.
also in them?
Yes, he played
That's what
his
that's what
brother.
it's saying.
He played Vince
Oh.
Vaughn's brother in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The two Vincents again in the same
Yeah.
movie,
Mhm.
just like The Cell.
I was gonna say, I think
Oh.
they've been
Yeah,
in a
so
few
man.
movies together for sure.
Besides those two, The Breakup and The Cell.
Yeah, I almost
What
want
were
to
the
say
other ones?
I almost want to say that there's another one, but I'm probably not going to be able to come top of my head.
Hmm.
Steve's
Yeah,
the one
he's-
that's looking at all of his movies, so
Yeah, I mean, and they're just like some obscure ones too, like stuff that I've never even seen before. I would have
didn't even-
figured he was.
well, you didn't even bring
What's
up
that?
Magnificent Seven. Magnificent Seven, he was in. That was really good. The remake of that with Chris Pratt and Denzel Washington.
Mhm.
That had a pretty good all-star cast to it. Magnificent Seven. It also had Ethan Hawke. But yeah, he played like the big country wild one that was like all brute. Magnificent Seven. Besides my love for horror, I also have a love for westerns. So I watch a lot of those as well.
I was reading the other day about how much Stephen King loved Bone Tomahawk. I don't know
Bone
why
Tomahawk.
it came up. Yeah,
I love that
we
movie
get a
so
little.
much.
Yeah.
That's good.
It was something I scrolled down on and read a whole article on it that he loved Kurt Russell in that movie and everything about it for that matter, like his role in that style of a movie.
Yeah. Doesn't really
I
surprise
couldn't
me. that
I
he
couldn't
does
say it any
that.
better than Jake just did.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Yeah,
Am I
you
cutting
have
No, I
out?
couldn't hear you for a minute.
So kind of in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'm starting to get some bad reception here or something.
You just
Yeah.
mentioned the Magnificent Seven, and I wanted to say the Hateful Eight. Fantastic. Loved the Hateful Eight.
I would give Bone Tomahawk,
That's a
if
good
you can
movie.
hear me. I'd give that like 8.2.
Yeah, I'd rate it.
What is up with you and your point twos, man?
I don't know.
I would give it a 13.2.
A 13.7.
Point two.
Thing that gets a 13 is
You guys got a movie to put out there for everybody?
To recommend.
What's your recommendation? Yep.
I'll start with a recommendation. Since Jake can't clap back at this, I know he absolutely hates Kristen Stewart, and I watched her in a movie called Love Lies Bleeding the other day. It just popped
Okay.
up on HBO Max, and I had no idea what to expect. I just watched it because it hit me, and it has one of the craziest, maybe not craziest kills, but showing the corpse of the kill after it happened. I was just like, damn, that's gruesome. And it also has Ed Harris, and it shows him eating a Hercules beetle.
What?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's pretty wild.
I kind of want to watch
Yeah.
it just because of that part, but
Yeah, no. Kristen Stewart she owns like a gym, and she falls in love with a female bodybuilder. And it's just it's a wild ride. It is crazy. I did want to recommend The Cell, but everyone's seen that. So
yeah.
$5, Jen, if you can come up with another Kristen Stewart movie worth watching.
just
Worth
just,
watching?
a Kristen Stewart movie.
She did okay when she was really young and was in, what was it called? Panic Room?
No, that was going to be
my
mine.
god!
You
Was it
bastard. Yes.
But as she got
You stole my
older,
panic room.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize that was her as the little.
Yeah,
Oh, panic
that
room,
was
man.
young.
Panic room.
Wow.
Okay, Jen, let's cohabitate or something or other, whatever it is. Let's both talk about Panic Room. Let's give that as our recommendation.
Oh, I have a recommendation.
Oh, but that's good. Okay, what do you got?
So it has been a long time since I've seen it. I think it came out in 2009, maybe. But it's called Dogtooth. Have any of y'all seen Dogtooth?
No.
Dogtooth.
Yeah. Well, it is a slow burn, at times, at a lot of times. And it is a foreign film. But it is interesting because it's about these three, I believe they're teenagers, maybe 18, around 18 years old, all three of them, I think. One might be a little older, whatever. So it's two teenage girls and one teenage boy, and their family has basically kept them captive, secluded from the rest of the world. They cannot leave their backyard. And they teach them things. The parents teach them things that are actually not true. Even small things, like simple things, like I don't know, they call like the table salt shaker, they call it the telephone. And the children don't know anything about telephones, like actual real telephones. They know nothing of them. They have no tie to the outside world other than this one woman that comes over to their house occasionally. And I don't want to say what she does there, but she does some things with the son. Anyway, so yeah, so they have a very like sheltered life.
What is this?
Dogtooth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they lead like a very sheltered life, and if you watch the movie, you'll understand why it's called Dogtooth. Because there's definitely like some teeth moments in it, some things that I don't like to watch. So that's probably why I'm recommending it, because it doesn't exactly scare me per se, but
This movie hurt me.
but
It needs to hurt
yeah.
other people as well.
it does,
I
it's not
must
exactly
share
a
it.
scary. It's not exactly like a scary movie, but it's scary to think that there are people out there in this world that could be doing that to their children, because they, they really are like shaping those children to be whoever they want them to be. And I mean, I'm very sure that that does happen in real life, and that really scares me. So this movie kind of shows you like what happens when that occurs in this situation. But yes, there's a tooth moment um, that I was a little uncomfortable with, because that's one of the things that when I watch a horror movie and I see teeth stuff, it makes me uncomfortable. I don't mind most other things, but teeth stuff, yeah, gets to me
It's like
sometimes.
me with my genital mutilation.
Right. And Rob with eye stuff.
Oof, yeah. No.
Yep.
So did everybody
well-
already go while I was gone?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Do you have a recommendation?
Kind of.
Zathura. Please say it's Zathura.
I'm gonna go. Actually, so I went down this mental rabbit hole where we were talking about Kurt Russell in westerns and how I love him so, and somehow that got me thinking of like Kevin Costner, because Kevin Costner's a big western guy, and then I was thinking, I was actually thinking the movie The New Daughter. I don't know if you guys have seen that or not, but it's another one of those movies where family moves to a new home and weird shit happens. And I really enjoyed it, actually. So that's
You
where
said
I
it's a
went.
Costner movie?
Yeah, Costner, The New
Okay.
Daughter.
I thought you were about to say Open Range, and I got very excited because I love that movie.
I
But
love
no, I don't
Open
think I've
Range.
seen The New Daughter. I'll have to look it up.
I love Open Range, but I thought I was recommending like something in the horror realm here.
Yeah.
Because if we're not doing that, then I would definitely probably recommend, like
Zathura,
No,
the space
yeah.
adventure.
sure.
Space
Um,
Jumanji.
Yeah. So I can't even.
I was going to say, in case you didn't hear, Jen inadvertently offered up my movie that I was going to say, which was
Oh.
Panic Room.
Was the dog
So-
too?
No, I didn't.
No,
You asked me a question
Panic
and I
room.
gave you my answer.
she panic roomed me before. She was the Ken to my Forrest Whitaker.
Which led Steve to panic in the room he's in.
That's right.
And then it
Or-
led Jen.
We're
to-
trying to come up with
recommendation.
another. Robin said something about a Kristen Stewart movie that wasn't worth burning immediately, and then I put it out there to see if Jen could come up with one that is worth watching with her in it, and she said Panic Room, and that was mine. So
Yeah.
she stole it from me.
No, I didn't. I just answered your question.
So then
He
Jen
stole
got. So then Jen got vengeful and decided to pass her trauma on to us.
Mhm.
If I'm going to pass my trauma on to somebody, then I'm going to say go ahead and watch Eraserhead, because I would literally rather just.
I
I'd
like that
rather
movie.
probably bury myself in fire ants than watch that movie ever again.
Yeah, no, you made me watch that, Jake. I've never been the same.
Yeah,
It's-
Eraserhead changes you. That's one of those movies that
It's-
change you. Like there's it changes you deep in like the soul area. So if I'm passing
I have
on
to go back and
trauma,
watch it again.
It's an
I haven't watched it in a long time.
It's an
that movie is
experience.
dangerous to your psyche.
Yeah.
When you're watching that movie, you feel like
Yeah.
you've lost touch with reality. Honestly,
Maybe I'm
That
thinking
movie-
of Pumpkinhead right now.
if you ever want to watch a
Totally
movie,
different movie.
Very,
Yeah.
very far apart.
if you ever want to do drugs and
Okay.
you don't have any drugs to do, I would recommend
my
you watch
God, yes.
Eraserhead.
That
Because it's
feels
gonna-
like you're doing drugs. It's so weird.
It's gonna make you feel like you're having a bad trip, unless you're like a weirdo, then maybe a good trip. But you're gonna feel like you're tripping when you watch that movie, because it is just
It's
you don't
so
have
weird.
drugs, you want to feel like you're on drugs, watch Eraserhead. And I mean that in a bad way.
What
like
do
bad
drugs
drugs.
feel like, Dad? Watch this movie.
What did drugs feel like, Dad? Watch Kristen Stewart.
Which is interesting. Which is interesting because I was talking to somebody about that the other day, and this isn't really horror related, but how there are certain movies that make you feel like you're on drugs, like Requiem for a Dream. Movie makes you feel like you're on drugs. Train Spotting. There's parts of that where you feel like you're, the movie Spun
Love that
with
movie,
Brittany Murphy. I don't know if you ever saw Spun with Brittany Murphy, but that's another movie that
What's the Tom Cruise movie? You know what I'm talking about?
makes you feel
Vanilla
like you're on
Sky.
drugs.
Vanilla Sky.
Vanilla Sky.
Gotta
That's
be Vanilla
it.
Sky.
Yep.
That movie's bonkers.
Yeah, Vanilla
What-
Sky.
What was that movie?
Penelope Cruz and what the other Cameron Diaz. Yep.
Cameron Diaz, right?
Hey.
Yeah.
What was the
Yes.
movie with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman where they like went to?
Eyes
Eyes
Wide
Wide
Shut?
Shut.
Yeah, that was a weird one too.
Beat
Tom
you.
Cruise went
Beat
through
you,
his weird-
Jen.
Tom Cruise went through a weird artsy phase there for a
Mhm.
minute. But yeah, all those movies, it's like weird how there are certain movies that almost makes you feel like you are intoxicated in some way or another and you're not. Those are to list a few. Requiem for a Dream is absolutely intense to me. I don't know about you guys, but I almost feel like I'm in the chair, like, like digging my nails into it while I'm watching that movie. Great movie, but
It's a
intense.
fantastic movie. It's hard to rewatch it. It's not something most people would go
Well,
out
I'll
of
tell
their
you
way
what.
to see it again.
If you want to go semi horror movie in that with that same type of feel, a little bit like Jacob's Ladder too, kind of trippy as well.
Oh wow,
Good
that's
one.
definitely one. Good.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I don't know why you got to bring my ladder into this, dude. I'm not over there talking about Steve's mower, am I?
Or talk about my
No.
piercings.
Yeah,
That is.
I just did. We just talked about the ladder.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess we did go over an hour on D'Onofrio. Well, and things that were related to D'Onofrio and non-Don. It's hard to say his name a lot of times in a row. And non-D'Onofrio related things. So, with that being said, love y'all. See y'all again soon.